to the next question because it's my favorite question. The blossoming of the soul, you know, there's so much that's talked about this elusive sitting in the power. It is elusive because so many people go, what is it? You know, it's this mysterious thing that mediums talk about. When you train, you've got to be in the power. And what does that mean? And so many people have very different experiences and ideas and views, which I think is beautiful, because I don't know that it can be tied up into one little bow. So it's hard to describe. But what's your take on sitting in the power, and why is it important?
For me, sitting in the power is the key to everything. If we believe that the soul is the medium, so everything else is just the garment that goes around it, the soul is the medium, then we need to allow that soul to develop. And if we don't know our own soul, then it's very hard to imagine that we would ever recognize the aspects of other people through their soul. So our aura is the emanation of our soul. So the auric field from a spirit person blends with ours, but it's our soul. My hands are down in my tummy area because that's where I feel it. My soul is where I feel everything about that other person. So everything I've ever experienced, every pain, every joy, the grief, the opportunities, the hard times in life are all mine. But the spirit world used them to identify and help me understand their lives and tell their story. But to understand ourselves, we need to go within. So when we're sitting in the power, people will think that they can do it through their mind. So you see people in their pulling some kind of face that makes it look like they're trying to get to some place way up here. But in actual fact, it's about going within, touching the soul, and then allowing it to expand. So our awareness expands, our consciousness comes out into that space around about us. And then if we're sitting in the power and it's different every time, then that's exactly as it should be.
That was the thing I was fascinated about.
Yay, because sometimes we'll sit in the power and we'll be sitting for our own power. So if we work with the spirit world and we need, just say, a 90-minute demonstration. So I need to hold my power for 90 minutes. If I can't sit in the power for 20 minutes, then it's unlikely I'm going to be able to stay in the power for 90. So I need to train myself to stay in that place and do that blending and allow it, but it takes time. So you might find you'll do one contact and then you'll come out because you can't stay in the power for long. But what we've found is, on average, it takes around about 12 to 15 minutes for people to sit in the power to then move into the power. And that's a difference.
Yeah, it's the settling down of the mind and just getting in. It's like you just, and then you feel like, oh yeah, I'm here. And so many times you sit and you think, well, oh, nothing's happened, but then 20 minutes have gone by and you don't even know they've gone.
Absolutely. So every time should be different, because sometimes we'll be sitting in our own power. Sometimes the spirit world will come and blend with our minds. There might be a slight altered state of consciousness comes in where we lose our own thoughts and we jar ourselves back. So people often have the nodding of the head, just as our consciousness shifts. But it should be different every time, because if we change the term sitting in the power to sitting for spirit.
Sitting for spirit, yeah.
The spirit world can then do what they need to, whether it's to leave us alone in our own power to do that soul work. So we might go through some young years, some healing, some forgiveness, some tearful sessions, or they might join us in order to develop our mediumship, because that's where developing our mediumship happens. If we don't sit in the power, we cannot expect the spirit world to be able to adjust our mediumship while we're working.
And it doesn't happen in courses.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't. And what we know is courses are fantastic to go to, but it's what happens in between the course that assists the student. Now, we sit in the power at home for 1 hour every single day, and sometimes twice a day, because we sit for different parts of our mediumship. But we work full time at it. We know we need to keep our power built up. but it is vitally important. If we do not keep the vehicle that we drive in tuned and maintained, we should not be surprised when it breaks down and stops working.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
And it's like a full tank of gas too. If you need to go on a journey, you'll need to have the petrol to do it.
Absolutely.
I love that. And, you know, the fact that it's going to be different every single time, because that's been my experience. And sometimes I know, and other people have said, oh, I don't think I'm doing it right, because it wasn't, you know, a lot of people expect to see the burning bush every time. And it's not like that, is it? Sometimes it's arduous and sometimes it's beautiful. And
But sometimes I'll be sitting there thinking, I could be doing so many other things. But then after a few moments, once I've allowed my mind to settle down, then I'm able to get out the way. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's normally when my mind is very, very busy. And I know that there's a stress or a strain or an emotional shift within me. Emotional shifts get to take place whilst we're sitting in the power. They're very, very important, because often we don't take the time to allow that rebalancing and realigning of ourselves to take place.
And that's exactly what's happening on the whole planet right now, isn't it? So we can't help not be part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially at this time when we're on our own emotional journey, because we're either confined with people we're not used to living with 24/7, or we're confined on our own. I don't know which one would be worse. So there's an emotional journey that we go on. So sitting for that power allows ourselves to heal as well.
Even more so. Yes. Yeah, that's lovely. I know lots of people will feel very relieved hearing that take on sitting in the power and what it is. And maybe they might be inspired to just go sit even for 10 minutes. That would be just beautiful.
I mean, there are CDs that we've got CDs that people can download, and we wouldn't advocate that people use it constantly. What it does is it runs for an hour and it talks people in and then leaves the space, and then talks people in and then leaves the space. So if you want a man's voice, there's Phil's CDs. If you want a woman's voice, there's mine. But it's a way of just getting the experience of getting there. It's not a great description of it, but once you know how it might feel, and each time will be different, it takes the pressure off getting there then, because you allow it just to be.
And once you've got the trainer wheels, and then you can fly on your own. No, that's lovely.